So a few weeks ago, the staff got together and we did this first aid training. It took me right back. I used to be a lifeguard over 25 years ago, and so I was amazed. They're still using the exact same Actar dummies, right? These white androgynous heads that have this flat spot on the back of their heads. I've yet to meet a human being with a head quite shaped like that, but nevertheless, performing CPR and everything. It was kind of, we have so many new staff, it was kind of like this unexpected staff bonding, right? As we're taking turns pretending to be the unconscious victim, flailing around and all that kind of stuff. So it was wonderful. We had a great instructor, and one of the things that they teach in first aid is to recognize what's going on, to assess the situation, and then to act. And so at the end of the day, I was driving home, and I noticed black smoke rising. And I mean, the ink wasn't even dry on my first aid certificate, and I was calling 911 because there was a house, the side of the garage was on fire. And in fact, many people had stopped, many cars had pulled over, there were people around, they all seemed pretty calm. But as I'm on the phone with the dispatcher, I could hear sirens and I could see the lights of the fire trucks in my rearview mirror. And so I kind of made a split-second decision. I was like, what do I do? It's probably best if I don't stop and get in the way, right? There's already lots of people here. And besides, I'm late for another meeting, which no surprise there. So I just continued on home for my meeting. And as I did, I was kind of like second-guessing myself. And so I actually called 911 a second time, and I said, hey, I just called. I'm a Catholic priest, and I know first aid. So if you need me, I'm close by. Just here's my number. I'm happy to head back and help out. Now, thankfully, the firefighters, they made quick work of it. They limited the damage. And I never got a phone call. But I was reflecting on that afterwards, and I just was feeling kind of uncertain and even guilty, like, did I do the right thing? And you see, when it comes to these kinds of situations, maybe we can recognize that there's an issue, and some of us, we're good at even assessing, analyzing what's going on, but the hardest thing to do is to act. Because very often we're not sure what to do, or we hope someone else will do it, will respond on our behalf, especially when there's many others. And I'm using this analogy of a first responder situation to speak today about the crisis that exists in our city and in our world, these countless crises of social injustices. And I think very often we can recognize that there's a problem, and we can even assess, we're good at saying, yeah, you know what, I've got an opinion about this problem, but to actually act, to actually do something, that's where it's hard. And I think for many of us, we're not sure what to do, and we kind of hope somebody else will take care of it. So we can just kind of drive by at a safe distance. Now, in our Catholic understanding of social injustices, these are not things that fit perfectly in one political party's platform. There are many, and I'll just list a few. This is not an exhaustive list, but things like the injustice of abortion, that in our country, innocent children in the womb have no laws to protect them whatsoever. Or the injustices against our planet, that individuals and corporations are polluting and wasting in such a way that it's causing abuse to God's gift of creation. Or the injustice of human trafficking. I recently spoke about this, and this modern form of slavery. The injustice of MAID, medical assistance in dying, euthanasia, where medical professionals are helping, again, vulnerable people to end their lives prematurely and normalize a culture of death. The injustice of poverty and homelessness, that we have tent communities right here in Halifax where where it seems like the haves keep getting more and the have-nots end up with less. This grave inequality. The injustice of racism that's still in 2025. There's prejudice against people because of the color of their skin. The injustices of wars and violent conflicts, senseless death, and all of the other fallout of that, PTSD, etc. It's kind of depressing. Hope you're glad that you came this morning, right? On this series on hope, right? Is your hope rising right now? There's so many injustices, and I'm just getting started. And it's not like, I, Father Simon, can say, hey, everybody, listen to me. I'm a priest, and I know first aid. Like I know exactly what to do. I actually don't. I don't know what to do. And in fact, it'd be so much easier if somebody else just responded. I'd rather just drive by safely, not have to deal with any of these things head on. And in fact, I'll share one more example close to home. Just the other day, I was rushing into the grocery store. Again, I was probably late for something, and I just needed to grab a few essentials. And it was like, out of the corner of my eye, I noticed this young lady standing there, and the wheels were turning pretty slowly that morning. And so it took me a second to recognize, and I'd even walked past her by the time I was sort of assessing what was going on. I think she was holding a sign, and she was probably hungry, right? Looking for food. And so how did I act? I did nothing, right? Because I was already past her. It would have been awkward to go back, and I was in a rush, and I had this urgent mission, right, to pick up bananas and baby spinach and breadcrumbs. And so, nothing could get in the way of that. And I figured there's lots of other people around, right? So surely somebody else will help her. I just share this with you because I'm trying to be real. Like it's actually embarrassing. I wish I didn't have to preach this homily, and in most instances, I'm preaching first to myself because this is something that I struggle with too. But as people who are trying to follow Jesus, his disciples, responding, acting in the face of social injustices, this is not optional. This is a requirement. And today's gospel couldn't be more explicit on this point. The story about these two men, this rich man and Lazarus, begins, there was a rich man who was dressed in purple and fine linen and who feasted sumptuously every day. And at his gate lay a poor man named Lazarus, covered with sores, who longed to satisfy his hunger with what fell from the rich man's table. See, in the Roman Empire, there was no middle class. You're either very rich or very poor. And so we have these two men, and it's interesting to note the poor man, he has a name. He's the only person in all of Jesus' parables who gets a name, Lazarus. And yet the rich man is nameless, and I think in part because Jesus is saying, I want you to be able to relate to this guy. Put yourself in his shoes. See yourself in this story. And as far as we know, the rich guy, he didn't do anything to hurt Lazarus. He didn't say anything nasty to him. He didn't have him arrested or add to his suffering in any way. You know what he did? Nothing. Right? It's what we call a sin of omission. A sin of commission is when we actively think or say or do something evil, but a sin of omission is neglect. Neglecting to do what you know to be good. And that's what this guy did, a sin of omission. And Jesus is telling this parable to teach us that sins of omission can have grave consequences. Right? They end up in two different places, one in heaven, the rich man, in Hades, this place of the dead, separated from God. And if we go back to, all of the social injustices, the things I listed, the situation here, we might be crying out and asking the question, well, why doesn't God do something? Why doesn't he help this person? All these people who are poor and hungry and homeless. Well, God did do something. He sent his son, Jesus, to come and be among us and to establish the church, to build his kingdom here on earth, and to entrust to the church this mission of continuing this work. And in fact, we pray it every time we say the Our Father. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. That in heaven, there is perfect justice. There's harmony, there's peace, there is justice. And God desires that same justice here on earth. And the way he's bringing it about is actually through the church. That's us, through us, that he wants us to join with him in, yes, recognizing and assessing, but ultimately acting in a way that helps to bring about justice. Now, the Catholic Church takes this very seriously, and we have what's called the Catholic social teaching, and it's this moral framework that's objective, based on principles like the inherent dignity of every person. It doesn't matter who you are, you have value and dignity. Or this seeking of the common good. That it's not enough to just do what's best for yourself. We have to work in a way that benefits everyone. Or the preferential option for the poor. That if you read the Bible, so often God has this special love for the little ones, the orphans, the widows, those who are poor, those who are neglected and forgotten by society. That he loves them in a particular way, and so should we. Now, locally, our own Archbishop has called us to celebrate this Jubilee of Hope and to focus on his 4 priorities for the diocese, including social justice. And I think part of what motivated this for him, when Archbishop Dunn first moved to Halifax, he moved downtown, and he saw with his own eyes the level of homelessness. And he said, we've got to do something about this. This is not okay. We have to respond as a church. And here at St. Benedict, we believe that God is calling us to respond as well. He's given us this vision. We articulated this way that St. Benedict Parish is an explosively alive faith community where people discover Jesus, become missionary disciples, and then go out to transform the world. And that last line, that is so bold, it's scary. And yet, we believe this is what God is calling us to, that if we're to be an explosively alive church, it doesn't mean we just stay inside the walls of this beautiful building. If we're to be explosively alive, it means that we can't just drive by a crisis at a safe distance. To be explosively alive means that we're willing to take a risk. As Father Aaron was preaching last week, that we're risk takers. We're willing to go out there boldly to recognize, to assess, and yes, to act in the face of social injustices. And in fact, we're starting to see fruits. We're starting to see ways in which, with God's help, we are making a difference as we go out. And I just want to name a few things for you that are happening here. Some of our ministries here at the parish include things like our emergency shelters, helping people stay off the street, English as a second language, helping to teach people who are new to our country, St. Vincent de Paul, who go out to people to give gift cards and help pay power bills, things like that. We're collecting secondhand goods for a thrift store that again, enables the work of St. Vincent de Paul. We contribute to a local food bank. We have this ministry called Caring Companionship, which actually we go to visit seniors, those who are shut in, and again, so often neglected by society. And we're in this coalition with a bunch of local Christian churches in our area, starting to pray about how we can bless Clayton Park and Fairview in a meaningful way. Now, since 2021, we felt called to respond in a particular way by tithing as a parish, that we would give away 10% of all of our regular income to help those in need. And in these last 4 years, we've helped 102 families which means 170 people who are in dire financial crises become stable, figure out how to navigate the system, helping people with immigration issues, helping people find mental health support, and help people get jobs. It's just so beautiful what's happening. This year alone, we've budgeted to give away $132,000, and it's not enough. We've been trying to help people, trying to help families. We've got government agencies that send people our way because they've heard about what we're doing. And so we actually have a waiting list right now. We need more to be able to help all those who are being sent to us. I want to share one quick story. This young Muslim mother, she was homeless, and she ended up our way. We were able to, our team, so amazingly, able to find her a place to sleep, give her gift cards for food, connected her with Adsum House so that she could eventually get into an apartment and get on income assistance. And throughout this whole process, the team meeting with her, praying with her, to the point that now she's curious and she wants to try Alpha here at our parish. Right? See, this is the impact. There's no forcing, there's no coercion, but if we respond to the immediate temporal needs of a person, it has a way of opening them up to the deeper, real need that every single one of us has, and that is for a relationship with Jesus. There's so many amazing things happening at our church, and I hope that this fills you with hope, that your hope is rising, that you're like, this is amazing. I want to be part of this. And again, I've said this before, when it comes to our vision, it's got to get personal. It's not enough that we belong to a parish that does stuff, but we ourselves, we have to engage. We have to recognize and assess and act. And Jesus wants us to help us to do better, to be better. And so I want to just offer you two really concrete ways that you can act. One is to begin or continue to give generously, because as I said, we give away 10% to all those who are in need. If you want to give specifically to St. Vincent de Paul, one of the ways, they have a box right in their in the foyer on the left-hand side as you exit, or you can just go online and give with a credit card, and there's a drop-down menu, and you can direct your giving. Also, to participate in one of our outreach ministries. There's so many different ways you can help. There's just one example. We have this furniture bank. So we have a storage locker. People donate furniture to us. And so we're looking for people to give it away to. And so we need everything from admin support to people who are people who like to lift heavy things, if you know what I mean. So we need all the gifts to make this possible. St. Benedict Parish, we're not going to be paralyzed in inaction. We are responding, and we're going to continue to respond. And I just want to give the final word to St. Vincent de Paul. Actually, yesterday was his feast day, September 27th. And if you don't know much about him, he was the saint born in a rural part of France in the late 1500s. He was ordained a priest in 1600. He lived a very interesting life. At one point, I think he was captured by pirates, and he was known famously for his response. He didn't give in to the sin of omission, but he served the sick, the poor, the elderly, the orphaned. And it wasn't mere charity. He was actually trying to respond with social justice to find the root causes of poverty. And I'm going to give this final word to him. St. Vincent de Paul said it this way. He said, "Go to the poor, you will find